My name is Mark Sarrazin. I'm one of the owners at DeBragga. Very, very glad you could all join us. I think you're going to be in for a very fun day.
We're going to get right into this breakdown. What you see here is basically a side of beef cut in half. It's cut in half at the rib eye area. We're going to break it down into the primal cuts first, and then take it down into the subprimals, some of the cuts that you're probably more familiar with. Our first cut we're going to put right in here and cut outward. We're going to go with this and this. And now. There we go. Right in there, that's called the ribeye area. And when they grade beef, they cut it between the 12th and 13th, and they assess this. So what are they looking at? They're looking at marbling score, they're looking at color score somewhat. This is where you get your skirt steak. This is called the outside skirt. There's two skirt steaks really. There's the inside skirt, that's this one, and the outside skirt. And the one that comes with the membrane on it is the higher quality version. And then we're going to trim off. This one's prime, so it's got a lot of extra fat on it. But you would pull this all off too, and that's your skirt steak. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. All right, so that's our skirt. There. That's the plate. Not a lot of value in there other than, you know, the skirt steaks. There's some little bit of short ribs in here. You can see the short ribs there. Now this is your full primal rib. Weighs about 35 to 45 pounds. There's your tomahawk chop. Easy money. I'm going to break off this, and we'll make some short ribs. So I knocked off the chine. This is what you would call a 107. If you're going to age anything, this is what you could age, just like this, with the full cap on. And this exterior gets peeled off, and they age it like that, but they're tying that fat back on, which could result in some mold growth in between there. Now this is the, right in here is like a yellow rubber band. This is called elastin. And the elastin, it's very springy. In England, it's known as the paddywhack. Knick-knack, paddywhack. You know the song. This is now your export rib, right? You've seen this before? So that's what comes off of it. You got all of this extra stuff that comes off of it. So that's that blade meat off the top. That's pretty tasty. And then you would take this and put it back together and put that netting on. And that's your 109 roast ready. Now we're going to break down the hindquarter. There's only one real thing of value in the flank, and that is the flank steak. That's where the flank steak sits. It's the abdomen. It's the six-pack of the animal. Maximum tenderness. Beef reaches maximum tenderness at 21 to 28 days. And anything over that is done to add flavor. Concern. But there's your flank steak. Right? You know it. You'll love it. Now we're going to take the loin off. All of this, that's kidney fat. We used to have a butcher shop next to us, right? And we used to take all of this kidney fat and render it out and do our steak frites. Our French fries were all done in kidney fat. Needless to say, a lot of our customers are no longer with us. That's the kidney. The beef kidney, you know, not as delicate as a veal kidney, but certainly this one is a nice light color. This would be okay. If you cleaned out the center, you could saute this even. You know, when you're talking whole carcass butchery and whole carcass use, you'd have to figure out what to do with the kidney and the liver and everything else. The hanger is where the two parts of the diaphragm, the two skirt steaks, meet on the animal at that one spot. All right, so that's the hanger steak.
The hanger steak, in my father's day, and in a lot of old European butcher shops in Europe, that was a piece of meat that no one wanted. They call it the steak de boucher, the butcher steak.
Yeah.
That was a steak that the butchers would manage to palm and put in their pocket when they're going out the door that afternoon, because they knew their boss wasn't going to feed them enough and that they wouldn't miss this piece of meat, and that's what they would subsist on at night. Now it's become so highly prized, and it's a very delicate, very blood iron-rich piece of meat.
Yes.
It's really delicious.
That's a fat baby. It's a huge amount of fat. What's underneath it? The tenderloin. And I'm going to make my straight cut across. There it is. This would be what you would call a short loin. And the short loin is where we're going to get our porterhouse and our T-bone. And you see the amount of fat that's on here. That would all need to come off, but then you'll be able to see the tenderloin.
All right, in this loin complex, there's many subprimals in this one loin complex. Does anybody know what's involved with all these? We've got the top sirloin in there. There's a little bit of the ball tip. Also, he's got the money steak, the tenderloin on the top, which he's trying to expose by peeling off that fat. Also here, we have a little bit of the sirloin flat meat. So there's a lot of different muscles in here that we really desire at the restaurant level.
The tenderloin is quite large on this side, and then it tapers down. It gets smaller and smaller. So only from here to about there would be your high-end porterhouse steaks. What I'm doing now is working in and out of the chine, and that's when you go to clean tenderloins, there's all that fatty and bone material on the bottom. As a butcher, you're trying to maximize the tenderloin. As a chef, you're trying to clean it.
So just think about that and the dynamics of the beef price and where we are today, and what really a tenderloin is going to cost when a live or a side of beef is $3.50 a pound.
All right, now 2x3, 1x1, 0x1. You ever hear those terms before? You know what that means? It refers to the length of the trim from the end of the eye up. This cut, you know, that's your T-bone. You have the chine, these feather bones, and then a finger bone in the middle. Right in here is a little cut called the ball tip, and you can buy this bigger. It's actually part of the knuckle off of the round of beef. That would be the ball tip. Little flap right here, that's the tri-tip. Basically, the top sirloin can be separated out into its parts. This is a natural seam here, and that's the cap, or the culotte muscle. The culotte is the cap off the outside of the sirloin, and then you can actually divide it. And then this is the, that's the culotte muscle. It'll be about that much bigger, typically. The top sirloin butt has this little knot that runs through the middle of it that takes away some of the quality. And what we've been doing lately is we divide it right down through that knot and separate it out.
You'll cut the top sirloin, the main ball muscle. You'll hear people ask for a baseball steak. A lot of times it'll be cut out of the top sirloin. After you remove that flat seam, you've got that one narrow, beautiful piece of meat, which Tom just broke off. And then very often you would take the other larger piece, split it in two again.
Yeah,
and then you'd be able to cut little steaks that look like little tenderloin steaks,
yeah,
which is what they call in the Midwest and certainly I've heard it used on the East Coast a little bit, a baseball steak.
So that's the top sirloin butt broken out into its minutia.
That's it.
What the hell? Let's see. What else we got here? There's hidden gems in here as well. The knuckle is probably one of the most underutilized cuts. I'm getting hungry. It's multiple sections together But what I've been doing with it is peeling it apart. It's usually sold as what we call a peeled knuckle, which means this outer layer is taken off.
For those who don't know, Tom Schneller happens to be a very fine harmonica player as well, so I don't know if he brought his instrument with him, but maybe later he can regale us with a tune or two.
No, I didn't bring the damn thing. This sucker's inexpensive. Like, if you can break down a knuckle, you know, it's not that crazy hard, but wow. I mean, and I always say to my students, you know, for every prime ribeye, for every prime tenderloin, for every prime strip loin, there's a prime knuckle sitting out there somewhere. That could be a small portion steak, at least a marinate and grill, you know. That's not a bad little steak right there, if done right. Yeah, it's out of prime. Exactly my point. It's like you're taking the higher end certified Angus or prime, and you're making these odd cuts. I mean, that's pretty decent. I mean, if I could have aged this for like 4 weeks, woo, you're talking another whole ball of wax. All right.
Tom Schneller. Wow. Thank you very, very much. I really appreciate it, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you.